A very good evening, a warm welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine, presented by Pick and Pay. Thank you for joining us in what's been quite a busy week for wine up in Johannesburg. As you'll see in a moment in our news, there have been a few events happening as the wine world spreads its wings from the Cape and not just here, but spends time all over the world at the moment. A lot of South Africans making their way back from Provine, including the guys from DGB, who came away with a really, really good accolade, which we'll also talk about in just a moment. But as usual, the heart of the South African wine industry remains in the Cape, and it is a Cape full of wine events, and it is one of those that we're celebrating on the show today as we head virtually to the Upper Blaauwklippen and have a look at the hop, the Vintners hop, the Valley hop, an event I really wish I was going to be part of. They invited me last year, they invited me this year. I shall do my best to get there next year, but if I can't make it in 2022, then hopefully you will be able to. Not that there are many tickets left, but perhaps by finding out from each of the three estates involved, you might be persuaded to spend a day or possibly even two out in a really, really cool corner of Stellenbosch, exploring not just some terrific wine, but some fabulous food as well. The wine estates are De Trafford, Keermont and Kleinood, and I will be joined by a guest from each of them, all of whom have been on the show before, and find out exactly what the hop entails, but also get an update on the three estates and find out if anything new and exciting is on the horizon, and we shall do that in just a moment. Before we do, though, let's get some updated news from the world of wine. Now, those collectively are the headline acts just about from Constantia. That's Greg Silvermist over on the left. The guy crouching next to him, I'll leave for a moment. Roger from Constantia Royale. Megan is at Beau Constantia. Brad, I'm not sure what's happening with Brad's trousers there, but that's Brad from Beit Bewachting. Bulla has been at Constantia now for 25 years. Craig has just arrived from Cavalli, and he is working up at Silvermist Estate. Is he at Silvermist? Let me double check that. He's in Constantia. Constantia Glen. No, it's not. Greg is at Silvermist. Constantia Glen, that is Justin from Vague. And then at the end is the man who hosted all of these guys yesterday and hosted me. That's Miguel Chan. And if we can jump back that photo for just a moment, you'll find the guy who is on the far left crouching. There we go. Glasses on. That is Wade Bales. And Wade is the guy who's put together the Constantia White. He's done it for 3 or 4 vintages now. It's a wine that celebrates what he feels, what many people feel is the calling card of the Constantia Valley. 50% of the valley is Sauvignon Blanc. So not surprising, there is Sauvignon Blanc to the wine, but he's also added some Semillon. I think this year is a 78% Sauvignon Blanc, 22% Semillon, just to give it a little bit more meat, give it a bit of more ageability, and turn it into a wine that celebrates quite wonderfully the world of Constantia and the wine therein. And these guys caught up with us yesterday. We had a launch in Johannesburg, and you're going to see on the show, in the magazine show in a few weeks' time, Justin, who made this particular vintage, talking about it. Brad and Bulla have made previous vintages, getting them to explain the process, how they make a wine that speaks to all of the different estates, 10 in total, on the official Constantia wine route, and the wine that they have produced. It's a lovely wine, 5 stars, the last vintage in Plata, and when you drink it, you will understand why. So look out for that. That launched yesterday at Luce at the Sun Hyde Park. And thanks to Miguel Chan for looking after us so superbly. So that was yesterday, spending some time in the company of some great Constantia winemakers with some lovely, lovely wine and some great food, which of course speaks to our theme for this evening's show. Also happening is the new Steenberg, the 5 Lives, a red blend, Merlot-led, strong bit of Cabernet Sauvignon, and then your other 3 standard Bordeaux varietals for a wine that, well, you probably expect. This is Constantia, this is Steenberg. It's going to be a white wine, some bubbles. There are some lovely Bordeaux-style blends that come out of the valley. Think of that Constantia Glen 5 as a really good example. And this was lunch at Solo and Santon a little earlier on today. The 5 Live speaks to Katerina, who led 5 very different chapters of a very colourful life, a life I did not believe was true. Such is the excitement and colour it brings to the narrative therein. And I actually asked Heather from the Steenberg team today, did you believe this story when you first heard it? I certainly didn't. It's a wonderful one, and it's captured in a new wine out of Steenberg, the 5 Lives Red Blend. So another one to look out for. Also look out for some brand new stickers on Chenin Blanc bottles across South Africa. The guys at the Chenin SA team have gone out of their way to make Chenin Blanc more accessible. And so this is what they've done. They've popped this little sticker on. Rich, fruity, fresh, gives you a broad idea. It's obviously a bit more complex than that, but it gives you a broad idea of the style of Chenin Blanc that you will be drinking. So if it's big and rich, if it's really fruit driven, if it's one that's perhaps just a little leaner, maybe a little more mineral in its makeup, that'll kind of point you in the right direction and give you a broad framework from which to choose a wine that in the past has suited your palate and allows you to explore within that particular range. So kudos to Ina and Ken and the Chenin Blanc team. They are a great lot when it comes to being innovative, and this is another example. And well done too to DGB and their team at Provine winning that award. I think we actually might have mentioned this last week, but it's worth mentioning again as the best South African producer and what was a really, really good week for South African wine. There's a really good weekend coming up for South African wine, the 4th and the 5th of June in Stellenbosch. It is the Vintners Hop that takes in the wine estates of the Trafford, of Keermont and of Kleinood and brings them together for a celebration of food and wine. How does it all work? What is on offer? And what's been happening at the 3 estates? Well, let's say hello to our guests who join us, all joining us back on the show. We've had them all before. We welcome them back very excitedly. Spicer, lovely to have you returning. Alex Darry is with us as well. And they've both been on the show from their respective estates.
Lost them.
Uh-oh.
Right, there we go. That is Dan via light of a phone. I'm trying to get some more light in now for the show. Let's see if we've still got our guests. Olivia, Alex, Spicer. We do indeed. Some unscheduled load shedding. Isn't life in South Africa fabulous? My apologies there. Just as I was about to tell you about the new 22 million rand Dan Really Likes Wine flag we're about to get put in. Guys, welcome all of you, and apologies for that. And I was about to say a special welcome to Olivia, because although we've had you on the show before, Olivia, it was in a slightly different space, now with the Trafford, and the start of a new and really exciting chapter in your wine journey.
Yes, Dan. Really an honor to be back on, and thanks for having me again. Yeah, it's actually been almost a 11-year journey. I have worked my way from sales and being on the ground in Joburg all the way through to making myself valuable enough to justify moving to the Cape and ultimately land up on a wine farm. So it's been a long time coming. It's been a dream of mine for a long time as well. So I'm really, really excited to be here And just to put the proverbial cherry on the top, I landed up at one of the most highly regarded estates, arguably in nearly globally, but certainly in South Africa, and working with, a highly regarded winemaker. So I feel quite fortunate. Definitely hitting the ground running and a little bit in the deep end. I'm learning a lot, but I'm super excited to be here, and I'm looking forward to ultimately learning to make some wine and maybe one day put together a barrel that's worth talking about.
We'll definitely have you back on the show when that happens. You mentioned a great winemaker, and David, you've got a terrific winemaker with a wonderful history, a wonderful story. You've got some pretty good neighbours as well. What's the settling in period been like, and what's been for you the toughest challenge coming out of your most recent Prosecco background in getting your feet on the ground and learning both the history of De Trafford and the broader wine space that you now find yourself in?
So I would say the biggest challenge has definitely been understanding how much paperwork goes into producing a bottle of wine and being able to legally sell it at the end of the day. That's certainly been a learning curve for me. And truth be told, I had absolutely no idea how much was going on behind the scenes just to get, that silly tiny little sticker that we have here. People should be awarded medals for the ability to get that right. It's definitely been a learning curve. I've been at the Trafford for 7 months now, so still fairly new to the game, but I'm definitely finding my groove. And I would say the biggest, not the biggest challenge, but the biggest eye opener is you really, when you come from a sales and marketing background, you become so familiar with romanticizing the liquid, and there's a certain vocabulary that comes with that, but you really underestimate where that vocabulary comes from and where the concepts, what those concepts are rooted in. And it's been really quite special to get closer to the relationship that winemakers have with every element of winemaking, all through the year and all through the growing season, not just during harvest or when, the juice is going into a bottle and you're hitting your final stages of production where you're doing your labeling and corks and encapsulation and such. It's really beautiful and truthfully quite humbling to understand what it takes to be able to execute on such high levels and to be able to deliver excellent wines. And I feel very special to have had the opportunity to witness and be part of something like that.
If you're heading off to the Vintners Hop, there will be a beaming host waiting to welcome you. We'll find out from Olivia shortly what awaits over the weekend in question at De Trafford. Alex, if you'd got a phone call from Olivia when she was asked if the De Trafford job was one she wanted, what would have been your pitch for selling the Blaauwklippen Valley to her?
Thanks, Dan. Nice to be on the show again. Jeepers, I'm not sure. I think it's a beautiful valley. I would have said to her, make sure that you bring a jacket because it's like this time of it gets bloody cold up here. But I think it's a lovely little valley. We've got a great sort of neighborhood where we're very open with our neighbors and stuff, and it's small and intimate, let alone just awesomely beautiful. I've been here now, I'm in my 18th year. I grew up just down the road, and it never ceases to amaze you how beautiful this valley is.
And it's a valley that also produces some rather nice wine in no small part. That's thanks to you and to your fellow winemakers in the area. But give us your understanding of going beyond just the magic touch of Alex the winemaker, and tell us a bit about the area, about the terroir, about what you feel really allows this to be somewhere where you and De Trafford and Kleinood can make such distinctive wine.
Yeah, can I geek? If I'm allowed to geek out a little bit as a pure wine geek, you've got to start with soil. That's the most important. You really got to look there first of all. We've got this beautiful soil which is granitic. It's based in with granite and sandstone, sort of loamy stuff with quartzite in it and all sorts of minerals, which give us, when you're looking at either white or red, but it's easier to relate to the red side, are these sort of full-bodied wines with lots of rich tannins and rich color. And then I think what makes this particular valley a little bit more distinctive is the fact that it's such a narrow little valley, and it remains quite cool through the summertime. We have shorter daylight hours and not as much sort of intense sun as a lot of Stellenbosch does. Sort of cooler mornings, cooler nights. And that allows for this lovely flavor development and natural acid development in the wines. So that's quite a geeky answer. But yeah, I think I've recently attended a tasting where we looked at all different parts of Stellenbosch itself and tasted the wines of this region versus others. And it was amazing to see the continuity through the wines of this area of that sort of lovely richness and color and tannin and particularly natural acid. So that was really interesting.
There's obviously a very close connection between you and the terroir that you have. There's also a close connection in most of the winelands between the winemakers, the wine communities on each estate, and I'm pretty certain that relates to you guys as well, emphasized by the event you've got coming up. Would Spicer be one of your surfing colleagues?
Unfortunately not. And as much as there is a lot of maybe there's some misunderstanding about surfers and winemakers who surf. I wish we got to do it more often. We just don't. We talk about it a lot, but actually getting in the water, we don't do it that much. So I think Spicer does get in the water from time to time. I think he heads more to the West Coast. You'll have to clear that up with him a little bit more. But normally I'm more around the East Coast, Cool Bay and Betty's Bay area.
I love the way you try to suggest that winemakers don't really do that much surfing and then ran with your surfing spots. So welcome back to the show. Let's clear that up then. You're a West Coast surfer, is that right?
Yes. Hi, Dan. Thanks for having me back again. Yeah, more of a West Coast surfer myself. But I dabble. I've been to Strand and I've been to Cool Bay. And Hermanus and a couple of other spots up the South Coast, but predominantly West Coast. I like it cold.
All right, so it's a little drive to get out onto the waves, but when you're not out there, you've got a reasonable alternative, because as both of our other guests have shown, it is such a lovely part of the world. What for you makes it quite so special, the Upper Blaauwklippen and Kleinood in particular?
Well, I think my answer is definitely going to relate back to Alex's, which I mean, from a general perspective, it's a beautiful, special, unique little valley. That's full of, I mean, an hour before this meeting started, this call started. This interview started, I picked 3 wonderful, lovely big porcini mushrooms, which are going in the pasta tonight. So it's just as an experience and as a place as a whole, it offers so much. And then obviously from a winemaking perspective, I am not a winemaker, but it really it is so dynamic and complex and gives so much to specifically red wines, but other cultivars as well. And that's what makes the Upper Blaauwklippen Valley special for me.
We spoke when you were on the show last time about the wine, which I think you're best known for, and that would be your Tamboerskloof syrah. It's certainly not the only wine. You've got some lovely other wines, I think of the John Spicer in particular. But remind us that Tamboerskloof, that was your parents' home in Cape Town, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's correct. That's where I grew up. I grew up in Tamboerskloof in Cape Town, and went to Jan van Riebeeck primary and high, only moved out to Stellenbosch in the early my folks moved out to the farm in 2000. No. Actually, we purchased the farm in 2000. So it's been a long time coming, but Cape Town was actually home, and Tamboerskloof pays homage. The wine's name pays homage to that.
And it will be celebrated over the weekend of the 4th and the 5th. So let's have a look at this vintner's hop spicer, starting off with a Kleinood and the wines of Tamboerskloof. What are people expecting when they come out? What's going to be happening from your perspective?
Well, I think what specific to the Upper Blaauwklippen vintners in general is the opportunity to engage with the people of the farm, from the winemaker through to the people that work there on a daily basis, and it's a real human and intimate experience, for lack of better words. But on Tamboerskloof, obviously, we'll be showing our full range, including the John Spicer, including the Meervaller Mourvèdre, and because we've run out of rosé and Viognier completely, we've only got magnums left. So we'll be serving all our Viognier and rosé, the Catherine rosé, from magnums for guests, which is going to be a lot of fun.
Certainly will. If you didn't have enough of an incentive already, large magnums of Tamboerskloof await with Spicer to pour them for you. Tell us a little bit more about those two, because as I mentioned, so many people know your Tamboerskloof syrah so well. Not everybody knows the rest quite as well. Viognier is a grape I love, and it's got such wonderful appeal, and I've had your rosé on a number of occasions. Tell me a little bit about those two wines and why those are an added attraction for people coming to visit.
Well, I think, we definitely set out to focus on producing the Tamboerskloof syrah, but as the vines matured, and as we got sidetracked, that's essentially what happened, is we just got sidetracked. We ended up making our own blend syrah, which is the Tamboerskloof syrah, and then using additional Viognier to make a Viognier, which has since transformed over time, and is now fermented in 3 separate different vessels. And the Catherine rosé, which is much loved and just a delightful pure syrah rosé, named after my little sister. So they're very much part of the Kleinood and the Tamboerskloof wine story, and it's important to get to know them too.
Wine on its own is very good, as those two will certainly be. Wine with food is even better. I know that's part of the vintner's hop. Anything in particular from the food side, Spicer?
Well, I don't want to give too much away here, but we're going kind of loosely, I would say, like French bistro style pairing tapas this year. That's about all I can disclose at this stage. We're still finalizing the menu.
Very, very cloak and dagger from the man at Kleinood. Let's see if we can leverage a little more for information out of de Trafford. Olivia, starting with the wine though, is it the full house on show on the 4th and 5th of June?
Yes, Dan, we'll have our full kind of current range available to be tasted, which is always very exciting and quite a big treat. We also recently released our 2017 Merlot, which we benchmarked against the Mussetto, which is an incredibly highly sought after Merlot from Italy that comes at a soul-shattering price point, let me say it that way. And it certainly stood up from a technical standpoint, as well as just a general standpoint, to a table of good 25 incredibly well-versed tasters. So we're very excited. I regard our Merlot very, very highly. I think it's absolutely exquisite. So you certainly will have the opportunity to taste all the Trafford wines. And what's also quite exciting is we are releasing the new vintage of our Reserve Chenin Blanc in tandem with the hop. So those that follow our Chenin Blanc and Reserve story will have the opportunity to taste the first sips and the first pours of our 2020 vintage of the Reserve Chenin. I've actually got a bottle of the 18 sitting over here with a beautiful label by Rita, which is David's wife. She's an incredibly talented artist. So for those that have been, as I say, following the Chenin story, you'll be able to come and taste. You'll come and see the beautiful artwork that we've had on our normal Chenin bottles over the years. And I'm sure David will be quite excited and we'll be going on a little shopping spree in the cellar and digging out some older vintages for everybody to taste. We certainly are quite proud of the ageability of our wines, particularly the reds here at the Trafford. So anyone who's going to be joining us for the weekend, over and above the treats that are going to be available at Kleinood and Keermont, there certainly will be some great treats here as well.
You mentioned the ageability. I've got some Elevation 393 that sits about well over a decade in my cellar, and I was chatting to David about some 25-year-old wine just the other day, which reminds us of the history of the Trafford and the fact that there is wine going back a good few years. That Chenin and tasting it for the first time is going to be one of the chief reasons to be there. So much other wine, though. From your 7 months, what are one or two others, Olivia, that people you feel alongside of that Merlot should really have a look out for?
Well, other than the Elevation, which just really exists in a league of its own, I have poured it for countless people here in the tasting room. And those that are not familiar, you just watch, this kind of awestruck face come on as they have their first and second sips. But a personal one for me, I've always been a Rhone baby at heart. So I really love Syrah. And I think we definitely are a valley that produces exceptional Syrah. But our Syrah 393, we're now serving the 2018, is my personal favorite of the range. It's an absolutely exquisite expression of Syrah. Certainly a more French philosophy that has been employed in the production of that. So it's really special. It's got an incredible depth. Really shows up that minerality that Alex was speaking about earlier, and fruit that is so unctuous, it's actually almost creamy. So for those that enjoy Syrah, I think if you're popping into the Valley Hop and you're going to be bouncing between the three estates, anywhere you rock up, you certainly are in for a treat. But it's my personal favorite here at the Trafford, and I encourage anyone who hasn't tried it to give it a try when they're here.
If you're wondering about the slightly gothic look to the Dan Really Likes wine cellar and studio, we are in the middle of load shedding, but we're still managing to get the show out. A show that is focused on wine, but also touching on food. Olivia, you've given us a great list of wine to work our way through. What's cooking at the Trafford at the Hop on the 4th and 5th of June?
So we're really excited. It was actually something that was really exciting for me personally when I started working here, is that we have a fantastic relationship with Chef Pete Goffwood. I think he's really established a fantastic kind of repertoire over the years, but he's most famously known, I think, in South Africa from MasterChef. So he's going to be here preparing what he refers to as his legendary steak rolls. I have been fortunate enough to have 2 meals prepared by him since I started, and both of them knocked my socks off. So I'm ready for, the trifecta. And I'm expecting those steak rolls to be, as he says, legendary. So yeah, we're going to have something quite simple, but executed, I believe, incredibly well, and going to be as well a really great treat.
I will contradict you on one aspect there. I think Pete Goffwood is most famous for appearing on the very first episode of the Dan Nichols Show, which tonight celebrates
Ah.
200 shows. If you're watching, we hit our double 100 tonight with look out for Gary Player with a wonderful, wonderful roasting of me on the show. Pete is a terrific chef. He's a good friend of mine. One of the guys who taught me to cook, and I love his food, the simplicity thereof. And those steak sandwiches, order 2 when you get there, because the first one just vanishes. All this means, Alex Starry, you've got a little bit of competition, because if Pete Goffwood is running things at Trafford, your food's going to have to be top notch. We'll talk about the food in a second. Let's start with the wine, though. As with Trafford, is it the full spread of Keermont wine people are going to be able to sample?
Yeah, Dan, it's always nice to show people things which they can't sort of get out in the market. I think that's really the nice part about bringing people into the cellar for the day. So we do a couple of wines which we bottle specifically for our tasting room here, and we normally, when people arrive here on the day, we'll offer those as welcoming drinks. And then later on, they can browse around. We like to open up the whole cellar so that people can wander around the cellar and see all the equipment and that sort of thing. And then we'll have any wines which we currently have in the market out on a table with people serving them and talking about them. So, the Terrassa and the Syrah and the Merlot. We recently released the Amphitheater, and that will be on show, even though we're running a little low on stock, but there is a little bit left. And then I normally get stuck into the back cellar, the little tiny barrel cellar. And they always tease me because I go in there in the morning and I don't come out till the afternoon, having drunk quite a bit of wine. But I will have a vertical of our Keermont Syrah there, I think going all the way back to about 2011. So several vintages of the Keermont Syrah, and maybe a couple of other little treats, for people to taste. It's always nice to give people something which they haven't seen before, or something which you've had stuck away in the cellar. So we try to do all of that, and then obviously have a few vintages, different bits and pieces for sale, which are not normally for sale on that day.
I was going to ask you about the Amphitheater. I think the last time we had you on the show, we were celebrating exactly that wine. Not surprised you don't have much left. It's a triumph that you have put together, so people can be looking out for it. And the other wine I often urge people to have a taste of, something magnificent, it's slightly different, is your Terrassa. Any chance of some slightly older vintages slipping out into your hidden den at the back of the cellar?
Only if you join us, Dan. No, we hadn't planned it. The plan was to go back in this year. We always do something different. Every year we do something different. This year was to go back with the Syrahs, because we're really trying to highlight the sort of the intensity and the complexity and the history of our Syrah at the moment. We as a company, we're trying to work on that. But it's not impossible. We've got everything here. So for us to make a call like, oh, well, let's open up an old Terrassa and bang it on the table is a very quick decision. You just pop it out there, and now that you've suggested it, now I'll probably get a bit of pressure from our marketing manager, Nicole, to open a couple of those. So we'll see. We'll have a couple of surprises, a couple of treats for people to taste.
Of that, I have absolutely no doubt. Hanging out with Alex will be a particular treat. Hanging out with wine will be. What about hanging out with food? You've got Pete Goffwood cooking up some celebrity fare just down the road. What is on the menu for Keermont?
So our idea is to have a little bit of a food truck outside. It's called the Jack Rabbit Food Truck. Vasti and Mark, they've been here. They were with us last year as well. And they have various little dishes that they've put together, and you will have an option of those 3. And then what we like to do is we open up the upstairs area. People can grab a glass of wine, whichever wine that they prefer from downstairs, and they can go upstairs with a plate of food and sit and relax for a little bit before they head on to the next farm. Or sometimes they get stuck here, and then we just lock them in when we leave.
Yeah, in fact, I think Nicole said you still have 3 people from last year's hop somewhere on the estate hanging on for this year's event. You mentioned heading off to the next. For people who don't know the area too well, are these 3 estates walking distance? And if not, how are they getting from one farm to the next?
So the point of the day is we call it the Valley Hop because we have these shuttles which run between the cellars every 15 minutes or so. We try to keep those as fluid as possible, although we've had some hang-ups in the past with shuttles having to wait for people because they're saying, oh, hang on, we're coming now. But yeah, the idea is that the shuttles keep moving between the farms, and so you can come into Keermont, you can taste for as long as you want to, and then you can hop on a shuttle and go down the road to Kleinood and go and taste there, or up to Trafford. We encourage people to Uber on the day so that they can really relax and enjoy the shuttles around, and then get an Uber home afterwards. But we've actually had visitors who have started up in the valley here and then walked, because it's from Trafford downhill. It's all downhill from Trafford. You can basically start at the top and walk between the cellars. It's not too far. The biggest distance would be between Kleinood and Keermont, and that's cheapest, no further than a couple of Ks, 2 to 3 kilometers.
So if you're feeling athletic, you can add a little bit of adventure, a gentle wine hike to your wine hop over the weekend of the 4th and 5th of June. You've got wonderful wine at all 3 estates. You've got Pete Goff Wood cooking up a storm at the Trafford. You've got the food truck with loads of different dishes available at Keermont. And then I think from what I gathered there, you'll be doing mushrooms with Spicer at Kleinood, and the rest of the food that he's keeping is clad so very close to the chest around. Looking beyond this Spicer and life at Kleinood, what are the next few months, the rest of this year hold? Anything new, interesting, exciting from a wine perspective to look forward to?
Dan, we might actually be having mushrooms, but well, the rest of the year, I mean, obviously everyone's building up to Cape Wine, and we look forward to opening South Africa's wine industry's doors to the world again. But apart from that, we're still exploring the Meervaller, the Ransoon, the smaller, lesser known vintages that form part of our portfolio. And with a farm, there's always something to keep you busy. So there's a lot of exciting things in the pipeline. The launch of the next Tamboerskloof syrah, which is just around the corner, is going to be something very, very special. It's unfortunately another thing I'm not allowed to say anything about. More than that, it's going to be something incredibly special. So that's me for the rest of the year. I think if you want to find out more about from a winemaker's point of view, you should come out and join us on the day, and our winemaker Randy Westers, and we'll be able to chat you through all his plans and all his learnings and experiences on the farm too.
I think that is an excellent idea. There are not many tickets left, but jump online to either of the 3 farms. I think Sunday is probably your better bet at the moment to head out and enjoy that food and wine. Olivia, what about you guys at the Trafford? I know David is in Portugal at the moment, probably sitting on a beach in a Trafford branded Speedo, soaking up the first rays of a long European summer. What have you guys got that's looking really exciting for the next stretch?
We've actually got quite a busy rest of the year scheduled. We've got a couple of new vintages to release still. One of the most exciting ones, I think, is that we'll be releasing the 2015 of Elevation around July, August. I think there's very few estates that even have any 2015 wine left available to sell. So I'm quite excited about that. David can be elusive on the facts, so I can't tell you too much about the 15 other than it's probably going to be exceptional, and that you certainly need to join us in the tasting room post July if you'd like to taste it. So obviously Cape wine is a big one. Me, myself, I've never actually participated in it. I've only heard great things. So I'm really looking forward to getting my teeth stuck in there. And then first weekend of December, we've got our annual garden party where we put a big marquee up next to the pond for those of you who know the Trafford. For those of you who don't, you're going to have to check it out and come and visit us. But we basically have a 2-day long party with fantastic food, fantastic wine. Last year, David was pulling out bottles of 98 and 2001 and such for everybody to taste. So we're certainly in store for some fabulous wine and some fabulous food. And other than that, I think it's just going to be, really connecting with customers, planning Cape wine, looking at new ways for us to, spoil and delight in the tasting room, and forever finding unique ways to polish the way we put ourselves out there.
It's a terrific selection. That garden party, I got invited last year. I wasn't able to make it. So another one I'm going to do my best to get down to.
You'll have to join us.
Oh, definitely. That 2015 elevation, there is a treat. Keep an eye out for that arriving. So plenty at the Trafford, plenty at Kleinood. What about at Keermont? Alex, I believe you are on the bus off to the airport and heading north in the next day or two.
Yeah, I'm heading over to Amsterdam tomorrow night. I'm going to be in Amsterdam for, I think, 3 days. We've got a big wine show over there called the Cape Crew Wine Show, which is various importers have got together and put together a big trade show in Amsterdam. So that's going to be lots of fun. I believe the first day is on houseboats or something like that. So hopefully we can stop the guys from falling overboard. And then I go from there straight into London. We sell quite a lot of our wine into the UK. They I think during lockdown, they really accelerated their drinking over there. And so we've been selling a lot of wine over to the UK, and joining my agents over there and spending the week with them in the trade. And they're putting on a big trade show on the Tuesday morning. So I'm coming straight out of Amsterdam and into that. And my sister recently moved over to the UK, so I'm going to go out to the Midlands somewhere and go and look her up. She's working in a lovely restaurant there, so selling lots of our wine into the middle of the UK.
Sounds like a fabulous trip, and one which should warm you up rather nicely for the Vintners Hop at the start of June. A little worried about our Wi-Fi finally finishing. We're running off a mobile phone at the moment. Little load shedding in Johannesburg. So just the last one for you, Alex, before we say goodbye to all of you, and that is to have a look ahead to the rest of the year wine-wise. You dazzled us with the amphitheatre. Anything new, exciting, different you've got planned for the rest of this year?
Dan, yes, we'll be releasing new vintages of quite a few of the wines, but I think as an absolute highlight for me, which is, we love the years. We don't do it every year, but this year we're releasing our single vineyard series again, and that is our Old Vine Chenin, Riverside Chenin, Topside and Steepside Syrah, and Pondok Rug Cabernet Franc. We will have new vintages of the other wines coming out as well, but that for me is a real highlight because we get to geek out and go all terroir in the description of them and why they're all different and so unique. So that's going to be a highlight coming in September, and then the rest of our wines will be released sort of during the course of the year, including the new vintage of the amphitheatre later this year as well, the 2016.
If you want to properly unleash your inner wine nerd, get chatting to Alex around his single vineyard series. It's splendid wine, but the detail and the passion around it is just as captivating. Guys, it looks like a lovely weekend. I'm desperately sorry I can't be there. I should be sitting at home in Johannesburg in my cast, feeling sorry for myself and imagining you all guzzling down Pete's food and stuff from the food truck and spice it with this collection of mushrooms that may or may not be entirely legal, and doing so with some absolutely wonderful wine. So enjoy it. But I think most of all, what today does is shows what I love so much about South African wine, over and above the fact that it is so good and such wonderful value, is the fact that right across the winelands, we've got estates and wine farms who are so closely knit, so well connected, and who work together so well for the greater good and for the strength of South African wine. So thank you for showcasing that. The best of luck on the 4th and 5th of June. I think it's just about sold out. Everyone who's going is going to have a terrific, terrific time. I'm not there this year, but gee, I'm going to do my best to make it in 2023. But thanks for joining us. Apologies for the load shedding. Safe travels there, Alex, and look forward to seeing you all again on the show very soon.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks
Take care.
for having me.
So there we go. Olivia Pretorius at Trafford. David Trafford, the former architect, and now with his wife Rita looking after a venerable Upper Blaauwklippen estate, which is part of the hop with the vintners coming up on the 4th and 5th of June. Spicer de Villiers, whose farm Kleinood will also be there, pouring magnums of Viognier at the back end of summer. Well, no, we're almost in winter now, aren't we? But either way, a real treat. And just before he leaves for Europe, Alex Dari and his collection of Keermont wines. If you haven't got your ticket, you might just be able to get one. Jump onto any of the 3 estate websites, snap one up if they are still there. And either that Saturday or Sunday, you're in for a real treat. That does us for today. Thank you very much for joining us in part of the show. Thank you, Escom, for giving us a little more atmosphere than we had initially planned for. And if I have a very quick check, and I can tell you what we have to look forward to next Thursday coming up. Let's see, who have we got on our lineup? It would appear as we're back into May. Right, I'll have to chase that one up and confirm. But yeah, we've got some more great guests coming up as we make our way into winter, a time when wine is more needed than ever. Have a great rest of the week, a great wine drinking weekend. Enjoy the hop if you get there, and I'll see you back again on Monday evening. Goodbye. To join Pick and Pay Wine Club, simply SMS your smart shopper number to 36775. It's absolutely free, and you'll get for yourself 3 times the smart shopper points on every bottle of wine bought. You'll also get a 20% discount on 10 different wines each month, a 25% discount on a case of wine, and a magnum, some terrific competitions and invitations to awesome events.